Hi, I'm James Butler and this is Terms of Engagement, where I take key political terms and break down what people mean when they use them and how they can be useful to us. This week, ideology. Ideology. It's all around us and it seems that you can't turn either left or right these days without someone flinging the word ideological at someone else. The government's cuts are ideological. Virtually everything Jeremy Corbyn does is ideological. Some people even call the teaching of sex education in schools or consent at universities ideological. So this use of the term tells us that it means something bad or something suspect. But is there anything else beyond that? Well, people have been calling their political opponents ideological for a long time. It really starts sort of after the French Revolution, when Napoleon calls all those who had struggled and fought for democracy and equality ideologists. And by this he meant people who founded their politics on some sort of contrived theory. And in the mouths of conservatives since, it's always had that kind of derogatory tang, the idea of a politics that's founded on a sort of radical social theory rather than some sort of vague and unchanging thing. And for Napoleon, that was the human heart. It's for this reason that the English anti-revolutionary Edmund Burke calls the French Revolution a new thing under heaven, an armed doctrine with which we are now at war. As if there had never been any doctrine up to that point that had borne arms or drawn blood. So, that idea of theoretical falseness or artificiality continues right up to the present day, and you can hear it used that way even by conservatives today. But in the 100 years or so following Napoleon's use of the term, thinkers on the left start to think this is actually quite a useful concept, and with a few tweaks we can use it for ourselves. So this is how Marx and Engels deploy the term in the German ideology. They use it to mean a way of thinking that inverts or obscures the way that things actually are. And usually this means thinking about ideas that are detached from material circumstances or from history, or detached from the most important questions. And for them, that question is who owns what and who has power. That detachment is what gives rise to false understandings about how ideas and how society works. And occasionally this leads people to oppose ideology to science or scientific socialism. And out of this, over the course of the 20th century, we get an idea of bourgeois thinkers as ideologists devoted to refining an understanding of how society currently works and rendering that as natural or unchangeable. So here the concept of ideology means two things. One is the process of education and formation that naturalizes the way the world is. And the second is that framework of basic ideas through which we come to experience the world and which resolves apparent contradictions in it without allowing us to object to them or to change them. This can seem almost overwhelming or deterministic, as if ideology is everywhere and unchangeable. How can we ever do anything? And sometimes it works by exclusion. You know, you, me, and a millionaire are all equally free to buy a multi-million-pound penthouse over the Thames, but only one of us is going to actually be able to do that thing. And when you start looking at where the money comes from and who has access to it, then things start to appear a little less free and a little less equal. And it works in other ways too. When the first questions asked about black victims of police violence or murder are some variation on did they provoke it? Or when the first insinuation made about the unemployed in an economy with no jobs is that they're lazy. That's ideology. Ideology is always at work when something is naturalized or personalized rather than explained in terms of structural or political functions. Ideology might be indispensable, it might be unavoidable, but it isn't immune to criticism or to struggle. And there's another reason that thinking about ideology really matters now. In the past 30 or 40 years, there has arisen a kind of triumphalist thinking. A thinking that says we're at the end of history and that we live in a post-ideological age. The dominant ideology of our era is that there is no ideology, at least not on part of the people ruling us. They say that the way that things are is the way that they simply must be. So from the gutting of welfare states through to the relentless commodification of absolutely everything, through to economic decisions being taken out of the hands of voters and peoples across Europe. This is simply the way that states are and must be run. It is simply a technical point rather than a political one. So they say it cannot be questioned, let alone changed. And when people challenge the government as ideological, I think they mean to challenge this idea, the idea that the government operates purely on a technical basis rather than benefiting a small and very select number of people. But listen, saying that they're ideological and we're not is just trying to pull off the same post-ideological move, but in reverse. Instead, wouldn't it be better to talk about how ideology works across our society, who it benefits, who it is for, and who comes out on top? That, I think, rather than pretending that it's all just a technical matter of dry or efficient government, is really, really important. In many ways, the post-ideological is the most ideological. So, I hope that's been useful, and you can join in discussion on Twitter on the hashtag Terms of Engagement, and let me know anything you'd like me to address or discuss in future episodes. Thanks. Bye!